Good evening, Canisius. Tonight we're going to be covering the workers' rally held on campus this past week, as well as Vice President of Programming and Dread Sovereign and Continetti's Event-Based Task Force. I'm your host, Claire Dirrigl, and this is Griffin Insiders. Today I'm joined once again by Griffin intern Aidan Ryan and USA VP Anthony Kroese. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Of course.
Oh yes, thank you.
We wouldn't miss your hair.
Really?
Really.
So great, so great. Well, last Wednesday, you may have seen dozens of individuals, including students, faculty, Teamsters, and costumed biblical figures, and then one more, State Senator Tim Kennedy, walking in front of the library with signs demanding higher wages for facilities workers here at Canisius. What was that all about? Take a look at this video and you'll see.
Let me tell you something, folks. We are just getting started.
By SEIU union organizer Jake Allen's estimation, 150 people gathered on Wednesday in support of Canisius facility workers and increased wages. Among the many was New York State Senator Tim Kennedy, who shared his thoughts on the issue.
You service workers that are on the ground every single day making this college what it is. You're making it look good, you're making it feel good, you're making it the gem of our community, and you should be paid as such. We'll never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. The workers united will never be defeated. I said, tell me what democracy looks like. This is what I said, tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
This involved mobilizing students, faculty, community members, and most of all, workers. It required real grassroots organizing, people talking to people. This was entirely from the bottom up. Workers were reaching out to their fellow workers, students reaching out to their fellow students, and that's how we got so many people out here today.
It's more than I expected. I'm amazed with the turnout and support we got from students, faculty, other unions, and even our people. I greatly appreciate everyone coming out for us today.
We help the college, they need to help us.
Canisius students echoed the sentiments of the workers. 500 student signatures were put together and delivered to President Hurley's office, even though he was not available at the time. For some students, though, this means so much more. Sophomore John Marazinski's father is a facilities worker at Canisius.
It has been pretty bad. He's, in a way, working two jobs. He has a business at Salamanca, too, that just, allows him to have a living wage. So hopefully this will allow him to just have one job and lighten the workload that he has to face every day. I was very proud of the people who came here. It's great to see all the support. I was actually kind of surprised. I guess I didn't know what the crowd would be like. I'm glad to see a lot more student support. So overall, I thought it went pretty well.
It's wrong that at Canisius College, we are asking people to work diligently and daily, and we're refusing to honor their work with a wage that speaks to the majesty of labor.
Do you think this could be something they just turn a blind eye to?
If they do, then we escalate and we try new tactics and we continue putting on pressure. That's what a union's about, is building the independent power of working people. And that's what we did here today, is we flexed our muscles.
And we're not going to stop till we get you paid the right wage, a living wage, a fair wage. Let's get real!
Now, Aidan, you were at this rally. Do you want to give any initial reactions, anything that you saw that stood out to you? What do you think?
Well, it was exciting. It's something you certainly don't see every day. We drew from the community. There were Teamsters from different local unions there. There were, as you said, one of the SEIU organizers walked on 10-foot stilts dressed as St. Joseph, and another man who was either God or Moses, a sort of undetermined biblical figure. One of our Griffin reporters spoke to him, and he said that he's just an agitator, and he just shows up to these things. Not even sure how much he knew about it, but he was there to pump up our students, and it sort of worked.
I'm sure it did. A lot of theatrics. Anthony, I know you passed through as well. What did you think?
Yeah, I passed through. I was actually on my way to admissions to do some admissions work. But as I was passing through, I did think it was a pretty good showing for such a topic or main topic on Canisius. I was somewhat surprised to see such a large amount of people, especially students. I did see there was quite the showing when they dropped the petitions off at the president's office. So that was pretty cool to see the students getting involved in it.
Now, how many workers would be affected by this proposed change?
Well, that actually depends because this is, just to recap, this is a year-old debate. It's a wage reopener. So when the last time the Facilities Workers Union negotiated their contract, they said, we're not going to touch the wages for a year, and a year from now, which was actually last June, we'll reopen the issue. But of course, we've been in a budget crisis year after year, and there's no money for it. So they are negotiating a pay raise. They initially asked for $1 an hour for 67 workers. But most recently, the workers asked for, I believe, a 75 cents an hour increase only for the lowest paid workers. So there are 4 low tiers: groundskeepers, general workers, the mailroom, and housekeeping. And those workers would get 75 cents an hour more, and all the rest of the workers voluntarily abdicated the raise.
Oh, wow.
The specialists like HVAC, painters, who get paid a little more anyway.
Do you think that like Hurley will respond to this publicly? Or do you know how this is going to transpire?
No, I don't think President Hurley will respond to the rally, at least. He wasn't in his office when the students dropped off the petition. I heard that it was about 500 signatures,
wow.
Which is moderate, to be honest. And 20 students were there to drop it off, led by Vince Ulrich from the Afro-American Society.
Well, to be fair, we've got to give him some credit because, I mean, it's not the greatest economic times, and the school has had a bit of a budget crisis in the past few years. Mm-hmm. Do you still think that this is a viable option? Do you think that we're going to find a way to push this through, or do you feel like it's not the right time to be moving towards this?
You know, I'm not sure that anyone involved in this situation, other than the people sitting around the table, the negotiating table, are qualified to pass judgment on this. Because I don't know what options are open. I don't know what our deficit is because no one responds to my emails about that. And that's understandable because these are, the budget's not finalized. You don't want to publicize things when you haven't made a final decision yet. But the real fact of the matter is we do not know much about the budget situation at Canisius. Other than that, we're looking at a deficit in the millions of dollars.
Yeah, I would agree with Aidan. I think the best people to talk about this are those at the negotiating table. It is really hard to talk about when you don't know all the info. I mean, especially when higher education is such a difficult time right now, and I'm sure these are this notion is being felt across the board. Budget deficits, workers wanting higher pay raises, more benefits. So I really don't know if it's something that we can really truly give a good input on.
Do you think that anything will become available to get more information on it? Because I do feel like a lot of us are kind of in the dark as to what caused this and changes going forward. How do you think that we're going to be more educated, or are we just going to kind of stay in this place?
Well, there's a certain point at which I suppose VP Marco Benedetti, Vice President for Business and Finance, will have to answer questions regarding the budget because it'll have been finalized. I think first week of May he has to present it to the Board of Trustees. So at that point, we can't wait any longer, and he'll have to respond. And once we see what the deficit is, where we've cut, we'll be able to assess this. But I think we all do have to realize now that there are cuts across the board, 10%, 15% from every department. I just walked past a meeting of the Arts and Sciences program college headed by Dave Ewing, and Dr. Ewing was talking about, he was thanking professors and department heads for, I guess, rolling with the punches and taking these cuts to travel and to stipends and things like that.
One of the students in the video talked about how if the issue wasn't addressed, he could see the group escalating. Do you think that they're going to make more demonstrations coming up, or is that just a figure of speech?
I think it's one of those moments where you have to really balance what you're doing and what you're bringing to the table. At some point, rallies, you start to forget that they're going on. If you think about back when there was the shame on Canisius people standing on the corner for, I believe it was the labor dispute. The first week you drive by and you think to yourself, oh wow, what's that about? And then after week 2 or week 3, you start to forget about it because it's constantly there, it's constantly there. So I think whatever they do, continue to use as their tactics, they do have to be skillfully and artfully done to keep the topic relevant as well as meaningful. One
big problem is that students are going home in a couple weeks. And without the students, you lack that lever, you lack that pressure. I think this was an opportune time for them to do this. They thought hopefully this would give them momentum, but we have fewer opportunities for rallies and demonstrations and things like this. And you'll note too that people came out of the community for this, and watching that video you can tell that it wasn't necessarily just to support our union. You have a pastor who's there and referencing St. Francis, doesn't know a thing about Canisius, doesn't know a thing about a Jesuit education. You have State Senator Tim Kennedy, who did not respond to my request for comment on how long he'd been watching the situation and what he meant when he said that our workers are second-class citizens. I mean, I have to assume that the guy knows nothing about the situation and that he just wants to drum up support because he's facing a really tough primary that he'll probably lose.
Well, with turnout being actually surprisingly high, do you think that students are going to play a role in this? I remember you wrote an article in the Griffin about, I believe it was past semester, there was a student who hung up a giant sign outside of Old Main, and do you want to talk about what that said and what that was about?
You know, not much has changed since then, because you have one student, maybe two students who hang up this banner, and you have about 20 students who go into Hurley's office. Those were the 20 that were actually marching. There were maybe 20 more that were watching above as part of a class from the I suppose, the lot. And then a few, like Anthony, walk past. So student support overwhelming? Not really. 20 students out of a population of 3,000 undergraduates does not knock me over.
I mean, and I would have to agree with it. And even for me, as someone who has been very hands-off in this situation, I at least came to, because I made sure I wanted to walk that way, to stop by and check it out and see what's going on our campus. I would have to agree with Aidan that it is somewhat of a shame that more students didn't at least show up just to see what's going on, whether you support the rally or not.
Yeah. Just
to be aware of, right, to be aware of your campus and be aware of what's going on in the community.
And there is a difference between students who want to be aware, which might have numbered, say, 50 or 60 that day, and students who committed themselves to the cause, which numbered about 20.
Right. Well, this is an issue we're definitely going to keep our eyes on. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere because we'll be back with more Griffin Insiders.
There was one day that we had just done the cardiovascular unit, in class that day. And then right after class, I went over to the Vascular Institute, volunteered, put the scrubs on. And one of the doctors asked me if I wanted to see an open heart surgery. And so I said, yeah, really? Sure.
I came into Canisius as obviously as a freshman, not really sure what I wanted to do. I ended up taking a digital media arts class, and that really just kind of jump-started, my career.
And I think being where we are in the city and in the world with the medical campus that we have here is really an opportunity that I wouldn't have anywhere else.
It's more than just academics. Meet different people. Go out and do things. There's so much more to college. It's an experience.
I instantly fell in love with doing video work, graphic design. I started pursuing more and more opportunities in the school, whether it was doing admissions videos on the sides. I did a couple videos for alumni relations, the president of the college, and then I actually got noticed last year, and they sent me over to the Philippines to create a feature-length documentary.
I lived with the host family while I took classes in Spanish with Spanish professors at the University of Oviedo, and I was a Spaniard for a semester, and it was the best decision I made as a college student.
Welcome back to Griffin Insiders. We're joined now by Garrett Szydlowski to discuss an event special task force. As you all know, there's been a great deal of debate about the future of Palisano Pavilion as the USA has appropriated funds to convert it into a workout center. While Senate has voted not to revisit this issue, Programming VP Ann Continetti created the Event Space Task Force to deal with concerns about the project. Garrett, thank you for being here.
No problem.
Do you want to give us a little bit of background about your involvement with this issue, why you're passionate about it?
Yeah, I am the founder of the Canisius College Hip Hop Dance Crew, and we practice there on Mondays and Thursdays. Anyone who goes up to Iggy's pretty much sees us.
I've seen you there many times.
And we practice there from 7 until 11, 12 at night. And the problem is if we lose that space, where would we be relocated to?
Right.
So we don't have, we wonder, like, there's a lot of other clubs, and they are competing for space too, and then, where are we going to end up?
So you feel like that your club is going to be directly affected by this change?
Oh yeah, we're losing our home that we've had for the past, 3 or 4 years.
Now, Anthony, I know you're on Senate. Would you like to come back with that a little bit?
Well, first off, I do think that what Ann is doing with the Event Space Committee is really going to benefit the college, not only just because of this, but I think in the long term when it comes to events. It is sad to see that staple locations such as Palisano and locations where we all know, such as Hip Hop Dance Crew, we all know where they practice. It is a shame that that's going to be moved. However, I do think that we can find better space on campus. I know it's difficult, especially because Palisano is a one-of-a-kind spot on campus. But it is something that having a fitness center on campus is definitely a place or a situation that, or topic of discussion that we've brought up for many years. And so it is kind of nice to see after it being brought up 5 times, it actually going somewhere.
No. I'm sorry for cutting you
No,
off.
of
Are you
course.
sure? Okay. Aidan, I know you're involved with this task force, and there was also a town hall meeting for students to come and voice their concerns and find out what was going to be happening with this space. What's your opinion? Do you think the students are as fired up as they used to be about this? Is the issue kind of dying? What's your opinion?
I was actually not at the meeting. I had another engagement, but I just came back this afternoon from one of our meetings with the task force, and Dread Sovereign Continetti said that I think only 4 students showed up to the meeting, and you know, they voiced their concerns and they heard what the Event Space Task Force had done so far, and a lot of what will happen in the next couple of months is waiting on certain administrators to say what will be done with certain buildings. As Anthony noted, you know, a lot of the original excitement over the issue, like what we saw in the Council of Presidents meeting that month, 2 months ago maybe?
2 months ago now.
Came about because there's an emotional as well as a practical connection to this place. According to common law, if you occupy a vacant space long enough that the ownership of that property goes over, or land goes over to that person or group. And this is what happened with Hip Hop Dance Crew. I mean, Palisano is really not utilized that much, especially now that we don't have people staffing the pool tables. And it's, you know, only for like one-off events from Res Life or Alpha Kappa Psi or something. So the Hip Hop Dance Crew really owns that space, and that's why there is such an emotional connection to that. But I think there are contingencies in place. We're looking at really opening up 1716 Main for student use, and from what I've heard, that would work perfectly as long as there's a shuttle service that can that's set up for the time that the crew practices. Also, where there were plans for a rock wall in the gym, there are now plans for a dance space.
And the college has definitely been making moves to try and, I don't know, I guess create more opportunities for students to do things on campus. They're looking to kind of get morale up. We've been having spirit weeks and things like that to kind of build up, I guess, just a bit of unity in this school. And I feel like this move is just trying to get students more involved and to be prouder of their school. But do you, Garrett, feel like they're kind of overlooking the other ones who've already been utilizing the school?
Well, from what I understand, in the Council of Presidents vote, there was a majority, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a majority vote to revisit it, and Senate effectively said no. So I think, yes, Senate doesn't really take the Council of Presidents and what they have to say, and their clubs that they're representing maybe as serious. Now, we're only one club, but, and what you were saying is that I guess we own the space in your words, but you know, all the Griffins After Darks and things like that too, there's a lot of clubs that use it, maybe not as regularly as we do, and there are a lot of them are getting impacted, you know, just as well. And we're looked at, I guess we are the minority and we're being looked at like that. It's like, well, more people will benefit from this rock climbing wall on a daily basis, so you guys sort of lose out.
Right. That the needs of, I guess, the money kind of outweigh.
Yeah,
for you.
I guess, and that would be in terms of amount of students using it per day. However, our sort of viewpoint is that they'd be the same students that, you know, work out every day, versus even though the students in various clubs may use it at different times throughout the month or semester, you know, that adds up over time to a significant population of students who are now being displaced for the, you know, desires of a different population. And
while Senate voted not to revisit it, Sir Anthony, they did, I guess, add the new dance space. So I guess they are trying to kind of bridge that for you guys. Do you think that's an effective
Now that
change?
is, you know, that's a nice way to try and compromise. However, ineffective for our crew at least. We take such a huge space and we need the sound equipment too, so that it will never be anything close to what we have in Palisano. It would be bothering everybody with our music. We wouldn't be able to fit everyone on that space, because I'm assuming it couldn't be, you know, terribly large. Most of the space would be rightly dedicated to the workout equipment. So it'd be like, you know, would still be getting the short end of the stick, so to speak, although it is, I guess, a compromise.
Now, Sean Johnson is on the committee with me, and this afternoon he said that you're graduating maybe half the club and seniors, so you wouldn't need as much space, and he was not as concerned with that. I mean, he hasn't seen the blueprints here yet, but he thought that between 1716, where you'd have enormous space, and this for smaller practices, everything would be okay. And the music seems to be a non-issue because you just pop in whatever you want for the whole gym. Most people who go to the gym use their earbuds anyway.
And that's true, we are graduating a lot of members, and if we stayed small, then that space might accommodate us. But obviously, as any club leader wants their organization to grow and prosper, if we moved 17, 16 would have tons of space, but then would have very limited social interaction, I guess. When everyone's walking through Iggy's, they see us, and they know what we're about, and they get inspired maybe to join us, and we grow, free publicity, so to speak. But now would be sort of secluded. And if we keep it small, if we were to keep it as small that would accommodate us there, then obviously we wouldn't grow, and that's not our aim. We're losing a lot of seniors, but would like to gain that number back and continue to grow over the years, even though we're getting a slight dip for the next year.
Now I want to ask you, a lot of female students have complained quite vocally that they fear that people in Iggy's will look down through the windows and watch them because the treadmills are lined up against the front of the front windows and watch their rears clad in shorts or whatever as they run, and they fear being oogled in this way. Now I know that we all know Canisius College is kind of a bastion for prudishness, for those people who want to maintain their innocence after high school, but you guys dance in there all the time. I'm wondering, do you ever feel that?
Yes, we do. We get watched every day. We look up and we're like, oh, hello. We don't know who you are.
Does that bother
watching
you?
Us. Me personally, no, because I'm an experienced dancer, but it does stop even new members from joining the crew where they go, we don't want people to watch us. You can see from the outside, from the quad inside, and so people are like, you know, I don't want to dance in public, and there's a lot of people that are shy doing that, and it keeps them from dancing. So if anyone has the same feelings, but in terms of working out, they feel the same thing. I'm not going to want to go down there and have people, like, because some of the seats are right by the windows, they'd be eating and just staring at you.
Yeah.
Or if people are in the quad or walking by, they can see you. So, yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
I think, though, if we had to pick an opportune time for this all to occur, this would be it. Programming is being reinvented on campus. We have a new vice president of clubs that's coming in for next year. Council presence is going to be even better next year. At least that's my opinion. So if we had to pick a good time for this all to happen, and if we can repurpose Palisano and make it more available for students 24/7, and still find a way to get clubs like Hip Hop Dance Crew a location, as well as still then use our programming, use what we're trying to reprogram and fix, as well as to give you guys that publicity still, find new locations on campus. So maybe you're practicing in 17, 16, but a couple days throughout the week, maybe you are somehow in the gym, or maybe you are over in the quad rehearsing or something along those lines. I think it's a great time to do it because we're starting from scratch. I mean, we're starting programming all over.
Yep.
Let's do it now, and let's do it right the first time around.
I think like at this point in Canisius's storied history, maybe we're broke, but maybe with this, we get 777s with our last nickel on the slot machine, okay? I mean, seriously, 1716 has been just a pit and a mistake. Now we actually could use it for students and not just for one-off parties for the administration.
I mean, let's use this space that we have and use it to its fullest. And if we can get it some sort of transportation set up, so it's an easy situation, you can say, well, 1716, that's where Hip Hop Dance Crew is. They have their own area there. I mean, how awesome would that be?
And when 1716, I've been in there. I work for the catering for Chartwell's here, and it's beautiful and there's tons of space. But I ask people, what about 1716? They go, what is that? Students even know about it. If that was open and more accessible to students for programming, the only problem is as of the next semester that we'll be starting, it's not there yet, where it's like readily available and people know about it.
It is usable. We just need the doors to be opened. And I think the administration understands that. I guess that the challenge for Senate and for the Event Space Task Force is conveying to the administration and to the faculty certain things, like 1716 needs to be open, it needs to be for students. That lectures that are supposed to be in the Regis rooms and Montante need to be moved to Montante so that the Regis rooms can be open for things like the fusion GADs.
But then you also need increased transportation. Like the shuttles would have to be more shuttles, or shuttles that would go specifically on schedule with these clubs. And from personal experience with the Mixed Martial Arts Club, which I was on the e-board of, when we moved practice from Palisano to the gym, to the CAC, all of a sudden our attendance dropped because the farther you get away from campus, less people want to make that trip, even if they have a shuttle, or maybe they don't know they have a shuttle, or the shuttle can only fit so many people. So then all of a sudden you're losing some of your members, and clubs will be getting smaller, and organizations will shrink instead of grow and flourish.
That is a real concern, but I have very little patience for the student that thinks the CAC is a far walk. I mean, go to UB.
I think, no, Aidan brings up a good point. I was going to say 2 points, and then Aidan jumped in, and he named one of them exactly. I think we're a culture of, this is main campus, this is where everything's happening, nothing else is going on campus. If it's anywhere else, it's a long walk. I think that that's a culture change that we need to start changing. I mean, the CAC isn't a long walk, even for athletic events. I mean, we see sometimes the turnout for those and what it's like even when you're throwing PD's birthday, how hard it is to get people there.
Yeah. But isn't one of the main reasons of putting a new workout center in Pasano so it's closer, so people don't have to walk to the CAC? So that's almost hypocritical.
But I think that we have so much of campus that we don't use, and being able to properly use all the space we have, because we are spread out in Buffalo, at least in a zigzag pattern around the city streets. We need to make use of all that space. And as for the shuttle, I think that we do have the student affairs shuttle, and I think that's something where the student association then should step in and say, maybe we need to come up with some sort of a program where we can get students, because as long as you're 21, you can drive the shuttle. So maybe that's finding a group of students that would work at it.
Absolutely. I'm sorry to cut you off.
I'm going to cut you off. As of 2013, or I'm going to cut Kyle off, who told you to wrap it up, because we're not going to wrap it up. As of 2013, Canisius was facing the same problems that Buffalo was facing, in that you've got a lot of resources, but they're just spread out everywhere, and we're not using them. Now we could change that. Okay,
I'm sorry, but now we're going to have to wrap it up because we are officially out of time here on Griffin Insiders. Thank you, Garrett, for joining us.
Is there another show after this? Or,
well, we'll cover more of this next week, so make sure you tune in. Once again, I'm Claire Dirrigl.
Anthony Kroese.
Aidan Ryan.
I'm Garrett Szydlowski.
Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next week.